Welcome to part two of the interview with the inaugural manager of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays and two-time World Series winner, Larry Rothschild, as he shares his stories with Matt and Mark on Baseball Biz on Deck. We are rejoining the conversation with Larry now.
Give me 3 years, we'll develop pitching. But here's how we're going to do it. Take all the machines, use them for the knowledge in between. If you want to work on a delivery thing, point it out, but one thing. And let's work on that. And at the end, we're going to throw the ball the way we can.
Yeah. Well, I have another question for you because Mark and I have thrown this idea around, and it comes from basically watching football or soccer in the United Kingdom, and they have a system of relegation, right?
Oh, I've played with this
Yes.
because I'm watching a lot of soccer right now.
Right. So there's
Arsenal.
good 10 to 15 cities right now you could point that could support a Major League Baseball. So why don't they set up that second tier league and make that the driving factor? Then you would treat your players and pitchers especially a lot differently than they currently do.
Well, I think it would do a lot of things. There wouldn't be tanking for draft picks.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it prevents. But I think there's big problems with that, and that the AAA, you're going to have players with huge salaries that are going to be playing in AAA, and I'm not sure they can support that. So
the transfer system that they have in the UK helps with that, right? You can manage finances, moving things around. But
and they're throwing around the salary cap and all those things. But I think at the end of the day, since I've been watching soccer more since I've been retired, or European football, I've thought about that a lot, and it's a great system. It really is. And I've talked to somebody who played in the Premier League, whose son plays baseball now, and he said, he said you can, but it would take a major transition, and it would if you gave it years, it would be great. It would change a lot of things.
Like the carrot to the owners that exist right now is that you're going to charge every franchise that comes in $1 billion each, right? Like you're not giving these franchises away. So you begin with $12 billion injection into baseball in general, and then you go from there. And I don't think there's many owners that would say no to that.
Well, and also theoretically, you'd keep a fan base through the year because you've got a chance of getting relegated, and they don't want that. So they're going to be cheering for the team no matter what. And you look at the end of the year with 80% of baseball. Now they've tried to solve it by extending the playoffs, and it's just a watered down hot mess. I mean, I think I know, the fans and all. The thing that's driven attendance, I really believe, is gambling. No question. Yeah. It's why the NFL became the number one sport in the United States. If you go back years, you always had the sheets in the bars and all those. That drove NFL. Well, now baseball has it, and it's driving the attendance, I believe, in baseball quite a bit. I think you can even enhance that. It's a very interesting. I don't know if they've looked at it, but I certainly have been thinking. And that's funny you brought it up because I think it's a great idea. How it can be put into play, it might have drawbacks that you can't overcome. I don't know.
If there's any time to do it, I think now is the time, because what it would do, in my opinion, it would expose more markets to baseball consistently that need it now and can't really get into the door, right? And they're not going to set up a AAA team because it's not, the draw that they need to be considered professional. So yeah, I agree. I think it has a lot of legs, and I think that baseball's made a lot of changes recently, and that's one kudos that I would give them. The pitch clock is the other one that they've done recently that I know changed.
Yeah, I see. I don't disagree with you. I do have my hesitation with it because I think it's now become like, let's just do everything and get it over with. Let's just get it over. Instead, like if you're at a game with your son, you could talk in between. And I've been to, I went back to the Cubs 2 years ago because Kerry Wood's number was being retired. They asked me to come, so I watched those games. But it's hard to watch a game now. Like it's just like if you take a game from 20 years ago and put it in faster motion, that's what you're watching. Yeah. And maybe it's because I've watched games differently that I'm not going to say old school, but maybe that's it. But there's a tempo to a game, and and I know the game has slowed down, so there's more commercials, and I think the one thing it affected was the beer sales, because and I thought that might put it. And the other thing is the gambling. It's harder to gamble on every pitch because it's so fast. But I think overall it's probably been good. I think fans like it, but I think there's a tempo to a game that's gone now, and the beauty of the game. And the 3-hour games were not good, but when you taught guys how to pitch, work fast, throw strikes, change speeds, that worked pretty well. I mean, Bob Gibson pitched games in an hour and a half all the time.
Right.
You saw that all the time, and put the ball in play. And, now it's a strikeout doesn't matter. So they like walks. So you see deep counts all the time. Ground balls aren't necessarily a great thing for a pitcher. They want swings and misses. The three gradual outcomes. I mean, the whole thing just reeks of not, that's why, look, we have legislated stuff in baseball that we have caused. Like, you think about, we had to legislate you can't shift, because two-strike hitting was never taught. And if you teach two-strike hitting, a guy sees a shift and he wants to get a hit and he knows how to two-strike hit, he goes into it with strike one. And so that would stop a shift real quick. For years, they didn't want you trying to steal bases because you don't run into outs. Then all of a sudden, the game got boring, so they decided we got to legislate that they're going to run. So the base got bigger. The pitcher's limited in what he can do to hold a runner. They want more. They had to legislate that, what they screwed up.
Yeah.
Maury Wills didn't need any special thing to be able to steal base at will. I mean, because they were taught in the minor leagues and taught coming up how you steal bases. That was lost because they didn't want people running. Bunting, you can talk. I know you don't give away outs, but if you're in the ninth inning and you're in a tie game and you're the home team and you lead off hitters on second base, and I see strikeouts all the time because strikeout's just another out. Get your ace swing off. Geez, get the guy over, and if you can't bunt, and you can't bunt, nobody bunts in the minor league. So it might be coming back in some form, and I hope, is it boring? But you got to make a play on it, and there's a lot of strategy involved there. But if you can win a game, there's a value to every win. They can tell you how much it is. Yeah. There's a number, there's a monetary number on wins that has been analyzed.
The problem is that they haven't so far for a long time paid the players who are that mold. Like Ricky Henderson is a good example.
Right.
25 years, he made $44 million. You look at the competitors he was up against who hit a lot of home runs, they got paid way more than Ricky did. Like, they weren't as good a player as Ricky was a lot of times, like nowhere near.
Right.
So, if you looked at the productivity of the players as a whole, especially defensively, offensively, etc., like the valuation of baseball needs to be redone a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, if players get paid to steal bases, they will steal bases.
Yep. They'll learn how, and they'll want to be taught how. They've learned how to walk because they get paid to, that's on base. That's a big part of it. If you hit 240 and walk enough, you're fine. Batting averages now, you look at them. Yeah, 256 a good year. Like, for what? If you can get a runner over, it's going to it's going to be against you because that's not a hard hit ball necessarily. You're going the other way, you're trying to put the ball in play with an easy swing and work the ball the other way to get the runner over if you're right-handed hitter guy in second. So that ball not being hit hard works against you.
When we look at the Blue Jays last year, right, in the World Series, thoughts on them? Because they kind of brought back a lot of old school to their lineup.
Yeah, and that's an interesting, they were able to do that, and it worked. So you may have some copycats now. If it works again this year, you definitely will have a lot of organizations doing that. But one and done may not. But it's just not that hard to teach. Bunting, maybe it's just me, but I thought it was the easiest thing in the world to do. Really, if you watch a Greg Maddux, It's incredible. He knew, but all that is like wanting, if you want to get the ball down and you're bunting, you're going to get the ball down.
Right.
I mean, you're a professional hitter. You ought to be able to do that. And it's just catching the ball with the bat. That's all it is. So, yeah, I mean, but again, they're not incentivized to do those things. So it's just not happening. And as a result, everything's been legislated. I don't know what's next, but you legislate the pitch clock because we didn't teach pitchers how to pitch early, pitch quick, get the ball, get on the mound, throw strikes, first pitch strikes, change speeds. But there's years ago, there was a study that the hitter needed 16 seconds to understand what just happened to him. And so now you've legislated he's not getting that. So you've watched hitters struggle with the time clock. They don't get comfortable with it because in their mind they can't get that. So they don't have the time to.
Very bright? Is that what you're saying?
The what?
Are you saying hitters aren't very bright?
No, anybody takes that time. The better hitters are smarter, I guess.
Yeah.
Judge doesn't need the 16 seconds. So yeah, it's all interesting. But I think the pitch clock has helped the pitchers, and everybody thought it wouldn't, but it's helped them more than the hitters because they're on top of the hitter all the time. And anymore, they don't have to think about it. The only thing is when you're struggling, it was always good to get back off the mound and calm things down and calm yourself down. But now you're just doing it mechanically. Like it's anything you got to do in a rush is just the thought process so different.
Well, one thing that they have focused on a lot more than they're used to, I guess you probably got some sort of support, but most of it probably came over beer, is the mental aspect of the game and like them being able to perform in the moment and to do exactly what it is you're supposed to do. So they have mental coaches, and the Rays, you said they're innovative. They kind of were one of the first teams to really have like a whole mental acuity aspect to their
When I managed the Rays, I had Harvey Dorfman there. I hired him. I made him hire him because I had been with him with the Marlins, and I saw what he could do. He was the head of all this. He was in the forefront of it all. Wrote the books on it, the ABCs of pitching, and really, really ahead of his time. And so I brought him, and I probably needed him more than the players did that first year. But we didn't have time to get that program the way it should have been. And at that time, Harvey's wife had just gotten breast cancer, so he needed to spend more time at home. But the purpose of having him there was because that's when people started to understand. And you look at the Olympics, and you look at the kid, the skater Milanin, who should have just crushed it, but in some aspect, he just wasn't ready for that. And I know the U.S. Olympic team has a lot of help with that. So it doesn't always work, but I was big on being able to visualize and practice in the visualization of seeing the good pitches and knowing where your arm is in space when the foot's coming down so that you could repeat that. And when you needed to, you drew on it, and you didn't need, when you got out of whack, if you stepped off and saw what you're going to do, you didn't need 3 or 4 pitches to get back. And I was really big on having one thing in your delivery that you knew if you got to that point that you were going to throw the ball the way you should. And that way you could coach yourself and teach yourself. And we worked out that on the side a lot. Like, what's the one thing? Everybody's different. Right. And I knew when I was pitching what it was, but somebody else is going to have something different. And then you repeat so much that you pretty much know. But it takes a while. All that stuff, it's not an easy fix. And the game's not easy. And the other part of the game now is everybody knows everything that goes on in every city. Like, you can be pitching in a city that everybody's got all the information. And that's hard, but you're really living under a scope and you're under a magnifier, and that makes life a little bit harder.
I think that's why it's good to be a little bit crazy, because if you're unpredictable, Martinez was classic for that. You never knew where he'd go, inside, outside, up, down. It didn't matter. Like, he and Greg Maddux did the same. So being unpredictable for a pitcher, I think that has a lot to do with the game. And that's what hitters struggle with the most is if they don't predict what you're doing and they don't have the garbage cans and sticks to let
Yep.
everybody else know, then
Yeah.
they struggle as well, right?
Yeah, hitters get very uncomfortable
Mhm.
with the unknown. Like if a pitcher just drops a new pitch that nobody's heard about, him having it,
Yeah.
guys will step out and shake their head like, what is going on? Because they weren't programmed for that. They're
Right.
almost like computers in today's world. It's like if the computer chip doesn't fit, it's not going to be good. But, when it's good, it's real good. So,
It leads me to my next question, like I know we've had you for a long time, so I don't want to take too much time. But the ABS system is coming into play this year, so
mm-hmm.
Remiss if I didn't bring it up because I've always been somebody that wants to have it as soon as possible because I've seen young pitchers not get the credit from umpires that they
Mm-hmm.
earned, right? And I want them to get a little bit, of a smoother transition from minor league ball to pro ball. So what are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on the ABS as a whole?
I think it's good, but I didn't. If you go back and the umpires were the way they were, where you got to know them all and they knew the veterans and you had to earn your way I remember I was in spring training and I came in a game and I faced Yastrzemski and I swear I threw him 6 strikes and walked him. I mean, I swear to God, they were all right down the middle. And, I got off the mound. I said, you got to earn your way. I mean, you knew that. You just knew it. So, but that's when the umpires had personality and you knew, like they weren't afraid to tell you, hey, your day will come, but you're going to have to earn it. And you know what? There's something to that. Now it's the umpires don't have that. They're not that way anymore. They don't have that personality. And now everybody sees every pitch. And, you always have the strike zone on the screen or whatever. And after the game, what an umpire did exactly. So I think, yeah, today I would be in favor of it. But if you look, the umpires were characters of the game. And if you took that out, you lost the character. Now that's no longer the case at all. So yeah, I think it's time. I know you can question it because what I heard is like breaking balls out of the cross the zone and then drop out. It's a tough read on,
Right.
but it's probably better than the umpires. Honestly, I hate to say that, but
Especially at the speed that they're working at now.
It almost has to be because you're standing behind somebody all the time anyway, trying to see the entire game. And I got to bounce off of this one thing because I've been wanting to ask it too about the ABS. But my question was going to be, how many less ejections are we going to see this year than we did last year? And you won't have a reason for Billy Martin to go out there and stomp and kick up dirt. How many times is it a disagreement with the umpire when we have a manager going out there and giving a fit and trying to get something to say, hey, you need to sharpen up. But now that's another part of the color of the game that's going to just fade away.
Well, it would have kept me in more games. I can tell you that much. I mean, I would go out there and wait for the umpire, and I wouldn't look at him, but I'd look at the pitcher and be chewing the umpire out. And you knew when you got to that point that you were going to go if you didn't shut up. So, and then walking back, sometimes you could get another little word in because of distance, and they don't like to throw you out from that, necessarily. But when they get to that point, you're done. So I remember this wasn't balls and strikes, but I had a hard time with one particular umpire, and he'd thrown me out. He threw me out the first time I ever got thrown out. And as an expansion team, the umpiring was different. I brought the lineup out the first day, and I forgot who it was. Joe West was behind the plate.
Oh, God.
And I give him the lineup. Now, we had Boggs and McGriff. Wilson Alvarez was starting the game. Flaherty was catching. They had played,
Yeah.
So I give him the lineup card and doesn't look at it. He goes, I don't know any of these players. Just because we're an expansion team. And I said, Joe, you might want to look at that card because I think you might have heard of Wade Boggs. and you might have heard of Fred McGriff,
The fact
and you might have heard of Wilson.
explain this to the umpire.
And that was my aha moment where I said, we are screwed all year. So just a quick story. You know, at that time, the rings were big. Nobody knew what to do with them. And so the umpires hated it. Like, they hated it. And I had pictures in their locker room. I had worded descriptions of all the ground rules pertaining to the rings, because every game you'd have to go to home plate and go over the rings. And this is, you know, late in the year, they'd still be asking me, and I'd go, look, I have all this stuff, and just read it, just look at it. If you can't read, I've got pictures. I mean, so anyway, one day I'm just fed up with it. I don't think it was Joe West, but it was a veteran umpire behind the plate. And he goes, Larry, would you go over the ground rules? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, you see that first ring? You see that ladder? I said, if a ball hits up in that first ring, you got to stop the base runner, and the fielder climbs up. And when he touches the ball, the runner can start again. And they looked at me like, I mean, they didn't know if I was serious. And I looked and I said, look, I've given you these ground rules all year, and I'm tired of coming to home plate and the fourth game of the series and doing it again. And you know that's not true, I hope, but you look at me and I'm wondering, like, are we going to do this tonight?
Really should be the other way around. Like, the umpire should be telling the opponent manager
right
how they're going to treat the rings, right? Because they're supposed to keep the grooves.
I think, you know, you're going to have that again this year because they didn't play in there last year.
That's
but
right.
The first year, and even the second year, it was like those rings were going to come down and suck them up to a different planet. And I mean, honest to God, there was a fear factor with that whole thing that was unbelievable. And I get it. I mean, the one day Big Hurt from the White Sox hit that ball that would have gone through the roof, and it hit the second ring, which is a double then. And they ended up calling a home run, and I could have protested the game because it wasn't a rule. And there's like, what am I going to do? That ball was hit so hard, you know. So, and I went and argued, and it was like, Larry, I said, I know, but that's not the rule, you know. And they said, well, I said, yeah, I get it, but I just got to do this.
What are your thoughts on the new Rays Stadium and where they're going to build it, supposedly where they're looking at? And are you going to go when they open it? Is that on your list of things to do?
If I get asked, I'll go. Yeah, I mean, you're talking, it's going to take 3 years, right? I don't know I have no idea. I know they've talked about HCC and Ybor, and I'm afraid if something doesn't happen, then they're going to talk about moving it to Orlando or whatever, which would be a fear of mine. And I don't know how interested in the tax situation for a new stadium to get it built. When I know the Bucks are looking to redo their stadium and put some money in that. So you've got a lot of tugs, a lot of pulling for the funds there. And there's other things that people are interested in. So I think I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I hope it stays in Tampa. You know,
his favorite subject is the stadium. He loves to talk about it over and over.
Who's that?
Mark.
Oh yeah. It is a thing. I mean, to get baseball there, and then if you have it taken away, but you've got to have fans coming to the game. And I know they have a great audience through TV and radio, which is normal. But the one thing with the stadium that years ago, you'll remember this, but they were going to go to Al Lang and put parachutes, like if it rained, like an umbrella. And I looked at that, and I looked at my wife, and I said, I guess we never have any wind here that would blow those parachutes, like the umbrella, it would blow it all the way to Orlando. And the roof in the stadium, even when I was managing, like the third year, we had a game where there were 50-mile-an-hour winds at the beginning of the game. And I'm looking at the roof, and I'm going, it's kind of swaying, which I think it was built to do. But if you're sitting in the dugout looking at it, you're going, what the hell? So I called Rick Naif down, and I said, hey, Rick, when aren't we safe? And he said, well, it's supposed to be good for over 100 miles an hour. I said, I'm not interested in supposed to be good. When are we not safe anymore? Because I'll got to get these players off the field, and you better get people out of here. And I said, look, if it gets to 75 or 80, come down here and I'll stop the game. I said, we can't. This is a tragedy waiting to happen. And it calmed down after that. So it was fine. But even then, so when the hurricane hit, my wife and I were down here where we were in New York, but we had the news station on, and I see all the setup for the workers in the trop, and I'm going, they can't put them in there. That roof is coming off.
Yeah.
And I, honest to God, I thought like I was Nostradamus or something, because 2 days later the roof blows off, and nobody wanted that. I mean, that was so bad. I think it changed a lot of dynamics there too.
Oh yeah, it might have saved them from making a mistake, I think, in St. Petersburg, to be honest.
Yeah, it might have.
Putting a similar stadium in the same area that didn't work the first time.
Right.
I think it might be a blessing in disguise.
It'll be interesting to see if, hopefully it's built in Tampa, and how well it does. I think Tampa has grown so much. I mean, it's incredible. Just in the years we were down there, the growth is exponential, and it's incredible. So, you've now got a pretty viable situation.
I think the governor just gave 22 acres to Zalewski and the group around HCC. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out, because you still have to get the city and the county to come up with money. 22 acres is nice, but
you want to know my cynical side?
Oh, please share.
I wonder who knows about that beforehand and bought the land as much as they could around there. Just the world we're in right now. So
no, I have no doubt. There's always some machinations. I'll tell you one real quick. Years ago, when I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, there was a county commissioner, and that is exactly what he did. And he was on a committee that was looking at development, and he was going out and buying the pieces. But it was not very secretive. And they're a little better at these days.
I know that years ago, a lot of people, because I knew some of them, bought some of the property in different areas thinking they didn't know anything, but they were predicting, and they had people that they thought they didn't work because they bought land in places where it's not going to be built. Wow. But Ybor, the way it's come back and stuff, but I don't know if you've got the property there. I mean, the last thing, not the last thing, I'll go as long as you want, but whatever they built the stadium, somehow there's a couple of names that need to be attached to that stadium. Mm-hmm. And Al Lopez would be one of them, and Lou Piniella would be one of them. Somehow those names, and Lopez especially, it has to happen. I mean, the city of Tampa has not advertised his name the way it should be. Not advertised, but just had the respect for what he did and what he was in baseball. I mean, it's an incredible career. And that museum, I love that museum. I think it's great. And in his old house, and I think I wanted to help them any way I could, because I think it's a great thing. And it's a really cool place to go. I've told everybody going down there for spring training, you got to go there. It's an hour, but it's a really well invested hour, and it's a pretty cool place to go. So, but anyway, I think Al Lopez's name, and Lou's really should be.
Oh yeah. Somehow,
whether you name the locker room after him, but the stadium should have Al Lopez's name on it. And I would hope that somehow, if I can get to some of these people, I do it, but I probably don't know them.
There's always an opportunity, right? I think there's a lot of franchises that are just starting to realize the importance of those kinds of things. Come to mind, they just started putting some statues in and around Rogers Center, which they refurbished. So I think Evan Longoria is another one that I would throw in there, where he was the first player, like other than Wade Boggs and the ones that did come over for the first year, like he was the first one to commit to the area and say, you know what, like I'm signed here long term every time. Like he did it twice, where he signed extensions, early on. really team friendly
Yep.
deal. So
Yeah, he's, and statues of those guys, yeah, and Lopez definitely, and Lou definitely.
Yeah.
McGriff, I guess he's a Hall of Famer, and he's from Tampa. So, those things are important to the history of baseball, but none more important than Al Lopez. And if you ask people in their 20s, they probably don't even know who he is,
Yeah.
which is to me criminal, but that's just what it is. So, and hopefully we have baseball next year and all this gets settled and all that. So there's a lot on the line.
Yeah, we got a new new guy with running the MLBPA, Mr. Bruce Meyer, but we know he was already a bulldog in some ways negotiating with Major League Baseball, so we're hoping that's going to be good. And what you're saying, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The history of the MLBPA before all this happened, all the lawyers that were associated starting at the beginning,
yes, sir,
they were all lawyers from the garment district here, and they were from the school of hard knocks, and they knew how to negotiate.
Yep.
The Players Association never lost anything in a negotiation for 50 years. 50 years, and the only player they had was the last situation, so it didn't go too well. And now 10 months to go and you're trying to regroup, and I think he's had a profound effect on the Players Association, and not in a good way. The way this transpired, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but hopefully people in their right minds understand the game is thriving right now, and both sides are doing very well, which it has for quite a while, and that's why the agreements have been able to be reached. But if you draw a hard line just to draw it, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've been on the players' side because the Players Association was so good to me and my family. That's where my support is, and that's where my belief is. And, I won't get into the owner's side. I'm not going there right now. So
probably a good call. But
yeah.
No, but I mean, we all got our feelings about that. But I want to thank you, Larry. You've brought so much to the game, and you continue to. And I don't want to close this if you want to talk about more, but I want to, at least at some point, thank you for all that, because I'm a big fan of everything you've done with the game, the spirit of the game, and see the value of still promoting the history of the game. Because if we're going to keep young people involved, we've got to let them know the beauty of what's been there before and the heroes that have brought it to us today.
Yeah. My son is now 27, but I wanted him to have the same experience as I had. He didn't have to love the game or the way I did or play it, or I just wanted him to have that experience, even if it was in another sport.
Yeah.
Just to have that kind of experience. It happened to be baseball for me. If it wasn't a sport or it was music or whatever, that's fine too. Just have a passion for something that you'll carry in your whole life, and I think that's where the game for so many people, and that I'm just going to throw this out there, so we've cut down to minor leagues, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to cut them down more, and they want to get eventually to where it's like the NFL, where college feeds. So here's my problem with it. Baseball is rooted in small rural towns in America.
Yes.
You take those teams away, people will find other things to do. It hasn't been long enough for that effect to have carried the major leagues, but they better be very careful about what's going on. I mean, there's still baseball independent leagues or whatever in these towns, but these aren't players that they can say, I'm going to follow this. He's going to go to the major leagues. And then a kid grows up and he lives in New York, and so he's a baseball fan. That's how we've created baseball fans. Scouts that drove thousands and thousands of miles were in these towns living and doing camps and knowing every high school coach. And that's where the history of baseball is. It's also in everything else with the players and everything, but that's where the real history of baseball is.
Yeah.
We're going to lose that. And that's when we started cutting the minor league towns, I know we're trying to save money and travel and you're going to lose something that's really important to the game.
Yeah.
Here's the way that I see it, because I'm actually like Mark can speak to this. I'm very much into the minor leagues. Like I watch it constantly, and I do dynasty leagues where we know way too many minor leaguers, and I pay attention to them all.
Right.
So my thing with the minor leagues is that they should merge with colleges, and that the colleges should be offering more full scholarships to baseball players. And that's the way it should go, because it's easier to market um, college games. You see the crowds, they're full because
Now
the
it's getting popular. Yeah.
support them. Whereas when you're an affiliate, you're sort of not really. First of all, you don't know how many years it's going to take for that player to reach. Secondly, you know they'll get traded. Some of them fall off, etc. So there's no attachment. There's not the same kind of attachment, I would say. I shouldn't say none. Some teams do a really good job. They have a long history, and it's been part of that core of that community. But it's getting harder and harder to build that and to sustain it. So I think the way to do it, because you can monetize the college game through TV deals, through all the stuff that you're talking about with gambling and everything else, and NCAA having what they have. And so you can have the quicker transition that you're talking about, where double A, triple A is all you need then for minor leagues, because you're just transitioning them from the college game to the majors. And in that case, in a way, you can keep the same number of teams. It's just that their association, it differs, and you're giving them an education at the same time.
You're going to have to really expand on the colleges, though, to be able to have that system. And also, are they going to accept that? As the NCAA, you're going to have to make a pretty good deal with them. And also, then you've got the Latin American players, that aren't going to go to a college, and they're getting their education as they're coming around, through baseball. They're learning English and things like that. So you kind of have to keep the developmental phase in Florida or in Arizona, where they can go through the educational process, the adoption process and all that. And then you've got an influx of Japanese players. And so there's a whole litany of things, but it's not a bad idea. It's a really good idea. I know when I used to travel through the minor leagues and see what the scouts put in, and just the love of the game for the fans there. And I know they taught their kids, and they brought kids to the game. And and I actually did something with an independent team in Chicago. I was I did 5 days a month to help out. Bobby Jenks happened to be the manager of the team 2 years ago. And you know what? It was kind of fun. The conditions were, people would have, but it was really kind of fun to do that and see and actually we had 5 of the pitchers sign to go play organizational baseball, and a couple of them double A and triple A. So it was a good situation. It was fun, but it was fun to do that. And it was in my old neighborhood where I grew up in Chicago. It was like 5 miles from there. So that's why I did it. My son was still in Chicago, and now he's in London. But it was really fun to do. And just the fans there were just different. It was, and they actually knew their game. And, they were all White Sox fans because it was on the South Side. But it was a lot of fun. And I don't know. I mean, if you got to keep the fan base, the very beginning of the fan base somehow, and college towns would work. I mean, why not? I mean, I went back to Florida State for a reunion last year, and the fans are from when I played there, which we were number 1 in the nation my last year, and the fans were crazy.
Yeah, they
but
really are.
Now they've got it was like a nice minor league ballpark, an A league ballpark now. So,
right. So the average college game attendance size is somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000, depending on you're doing all of them as a whole, right? And the top ones would have way more, bottom ones way less. But in the minor leagues, in A ball and A plus especially, the average is it's gone down now to about 3,500.
Yeah.
So it keeps dropping about 2 to 3% every year. So at a certain point, you're kind of like, monetizing that as an affiliate is getting harder as well.
Right. You've got the Florida State League average in there, which draws 10 fans a game. I mean, that's going to skew that a little bit. But yeah, it makes sense. I think it's a good idea. But and then when you relegate teams, you can send them to college.
I like your idea there. I like
All
that.
right. Well, Larry, again, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, brother. It's been a joy and a pleasure, and sharing some great ideas and history of the game.
No, it's been great being able to talk baseball. So, man,
all
it's
of it's
nice to
fun.
meet you, Mark. It was great to meet you, and hopefully there's a team in Tampa for a long time.
I agree.
Well, thank you, Larry. I appreciate it a great deal, brother. We
Okay.
appreciate all you've done.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
Take care, sir.
You guys take care.
Okay.
All right.
You've been listening to part 2 of the Baseball Biz on Deck interview with Larry Rothschild, twice a coach with World Series winning teams the Marlins and the Reds. Plus, he was manager of the inaugural Tampa Bay Devil Rays baseball team, pitching coach for several MLB teams, including the Atlanta Braves, Florida Marlins, Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds, New York Yankees, and San Diego Padres. Just a reminder, if you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like, and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube, at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.b skysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.